Picture this. Dawn breaks over the rolling hills, birds chirping. Oh, who am I kidding? The reality was far from the serene image you might have in your head. Instead of a peaceful morning, I was greeted by utter chaos. It was more like a scene from a horror film. The farm was in complete disarray, and I could hardly believe my eyes. Goats were tap dancing on the roof of my Land Rover, their hooves clattering like a bizarre percussion ensemble. They seemed to be having the time of their lives, completely oblivious to the havoc they were wreaking. Meanwhile, pigs were doing synchronized swimming in the duck pond, poor ducks, creating waves and splashes that sent the ducks into a frenzy. It was like watching a surreal farmyard version of a water ballet. And to top it all off, a rogue rooster was leading a chorus of chickens in a death metal rendition of Old MacDonald. The cacophony was deafening, and I couldn't help but wonder if I had somehow stumbled into a twisted farmyard concert. This, my friends, was not how I envisioned my peaceful retirement. I had dreamed of quiet mornings and gentle farm work, not this pandemonium.
The air reeked of manure and despair, a potent cocktail that would make even the most hardened farmer weep. The stench was overwhelming, and it seemed to cling to everything. A potent cocktail that would make even the most hardened farmer weep. I could feel the weight of the situation pressing down on me, and I wondered how I had ended up in this mess. I stood there, wellies sinking in the mud, wondering how on earth my brilliant plan to let strangers farm my land had gone so spectacularly wrong. The mud seemed to symbolize the quagmire I had found myself in. This, my friends, was the day I learned that farming is not for the faint of heart, especially when you outsource it to a bunch of city slickers with more enthusiasm than common sense. They had no idea what they were doing, and it showed in every corner of the farm.
It all started so innocently. I was just another city dweller, caught up in the hustle and bustle of urban life. I was fed up with city life, the traffic, the noise, the constant pressure to wear pants. The daily grind was wearing me down, and I found myself daydreaming about a simpler, quieter existence. I yearned for the simple life, the kind where you wake up to the sound of birdsong or goats on car roofs, apparently. The idea of being surrounded by nature, away from the chaos, was incredibly appealing, so I did what any sane, rational person on the verge of a midlife crisis would do. I bought a farm. It seemed like the perfect escape, a chance to start fresh and live off the land.
Now, I knew absolutely nothing about farming, apart from the fact that it involved mud, animals, and early mornings. I had no experience, no background, just a romanticized vision of farm life. But I had this brilliant idea. I'd let other people do the hard work while I sat back, sipped lemonade, and raked in the profits. I imagined myself as the mastermind behind a thriving farm, effortlessly managing everything from a distance. It seemed like a foolproof plan. I mean, how hard could it be? With a little bit of planning and some hired help, I was sure I could make it work.
I envisioned families happily tending their organic vegetable patches, working together in harmony and enjoying the fruits of their labor. Children frolicking in fields of sunflowers, their laughter echoing through the air, creating a picturesque and idyllic scene. And me, of course, counting my money while lounging in a hammock. I saw myself as the epitome of relaxation and success, enjoying the good life without a care in the world. It was a beautiful dream, a dream that was about to crash and burn in a spectacular display of agricultural anarchy. Reality, as it turns out, had other plans for my idyllic farm life. The trouble began, as it so often does, with a carrot, or rather, a disagreement about a carrot. One of my farmers, a particularly intense woman named Brenda, accused her neighbor, a mild-mannered accountant named Barry, of stealing her prize-winning carrot. Now, I'm no vegetable expert, but it looked like a perfectly ordinary carrot to me. But Brenda was adamant. This was no ordinary carrot. This was Attila the Hun of carrots, a root vegetable of such magnificent proportions that it could single-handedly solve world hunger, or something like that.
Things escalated quickly. Soon accusations were flying faster than manure in a windstorm. Barry, a man who wouldn't say boo to a goose, was being branded a thief, a scoundrel, a vegetable villain of the highest order. The once peaceful farm was now a hotbed of intrigue, betrayal, and carrot-related controversy.
As the self-proclaimed Lord of the Lettuce, a title I may have made up, I thought I had it all figured out. My airtight contract, drafted on the back of a napkin after a particularly boozy lunch, clearly stated that I was not responsible for any acts of God, carrot-related disputes, or alien invasions.
However, it turned out that my napkin contract had a few more holes in it than Swiss cheese. Brenda, armed with a law degree and a grudge the size of a prize-winning pumpkin, discovered that I had accidentally granted everyone on the farm mineral rights. And not just any minerals, mind you, but rare earth minerals used in the production of smartphones.
Suddenly, my idyllic farm was overrun by prospectors with more metal detectors than a beach after a hurricane. Tractors were abandoned, vegetable patches lay untended, and the chickens were starting to look a little nervous. I'll admit, at this point I was ready to throw in the towel, preferably one not covered in goat vomit. The farm was nothing like I had imagined. Instead of the serene pastoral life I had envisioned, it was a chaotic mess. Every day was a new disaster, and I was beginning to think I had made a colossal mistake. The farm was a disaster, my dreams of a peaceful retirement were in tatters, and I was starting to feel like I was in over my head. The animals were unruly, the crops were failing, and the weather seemed to have a personal vendetta against me. And I was fairly certain I was about to be sued by a very angry carrot. Yes, you heard that right, a carrot. It was the kind of absurdity that had become my new normal.
But then, a funny thing happened. Just when I thought things couldn't get any worse, fate decided to throw me a curveball. While digging a hole to bury my sorrows, and possibly the incriminating napkin contract, I stumbled upon something unexpected, a massive vein of those rare earth minerals. It was like something out of a movie. It turned out that beneath the chaos and the manure, my farm was sitting on a gold mine, or more accurately, a rare earth mineral mine. The kind of discovery that could change everything. Or more accurately, a rare earth mineral mine. Suddenly, the farm that had been my bane was now my boon.
Suddenly, everyone forgot about the carrots and the lawsuits. The goats on the roof were no longer a problem. We were all about to be rich. The news spread like wildfire, and soon the farm was buzzing with excitement, and the goats on the roof. We were all about to be rich. Even the animals seemed to sense the change in fortune. Even Brenda cracked a smile, although I suspect it was more to do with the prospect of a hefty legal settlement than any newfound camaraderie. But hey, a smile is a smile, right? And for the first time in a long while, I felt like things were finally looking up. News of my mineral wealth spread faster than a bad case of chicken pox in a kindergarten class. Soon, my phone was ringing off the hook with calls from mining companies, investors, and reality TV producers offering me my own show, working title Clarkson's Mineral Mayhem.
But the most unexpected call came from the government. It turned out that the rare earth minerals found on my farm were of strategic national importance. They needed my minerals, and they needed them yesterday.
The next thing I knew, my farm was swarming with men in black suits, clipboard-wielding bureaucrats, and geologists who spoke in a language that sounded suspiciously like Klingon. My once peaceful farm was now a high-security zone, complete with guard dogs, barbed wire fences, and enough surveillance equipment to make Big Brother blush. So there you have it. What started as a harebrained scheme to escape the rat race had turned into a surreal adventure involving rogue vegetables, legal loopholes, and government conspiracies.
I learned a lot that year, mostly that farming is much harder than it looks, never trust a carrot, and always read the fine print, especially if you're signing it after a few pints down the pub.
But perhaps the most important lesson I learned was this: life is full of surprises. Sometimes those surprises come in the form of goats on your roof or lawsuits over stolen carrots. But sometimes, just sometimes, those surprises can turn your life upside down in the most unexpected and hilarious ways. If you're thinking about packing it all in and embracing the rural life, my advice is this: don't. Stick to what you know, whether it's spreadsheets, tax returns, or synchronized swimming. Farming is best left to the professionals, or at least those who can tell the difference between a carrot and a parsnip.
As for me, I'm still here, living the dream, or at least a highly unusual version of it. The goats are off the roof. For now, the pigs have returned to their sty somewhat reluctantly, and I've learned to appreciate the simple things in life, like a good cup of tea and the fact that I'm not currently being sued by a vegetable.